Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Serious Strategy Game and we are returning to a Let's Play of Hearts of Iron 4. The war is escalating in late 1940s, so the Balkans have now joined in Yugoslavia and Croatia on the German side, or on the Axis side, and Greece has joined on our side, so that's fantastic to see. In the meantime, we are still bombing Germany pretty much all day, every day, pretty heftily, and we're doing quite a bit of damage there, so that's nice to see. And it is nice to see that the Germans are losing equipment so much. Now, in between episodes, I realized that this position here at Utrecht is a little bit exposed, so let's try to engage the Germans over here and push them a little bit out of this province of Friesland here in the Netherlands. I think that would be fantastic. Good. Let's resume the game over here and let's actually talk about the year 1940. Because one of the targets that Bomber Command identified very early on, or at least that the War Cabinet in the United Kingdom did identify early on and passed down to Bomber Command as one of the main targets, was the oil system. So everyone who has played a little bit of Hearts of Iron 4 knows, of course, that in terms of oil, in the period of the Second World War, really the United States was the most important producer down here in Texas of oil in the world, with a little bit of oil being produced down here in the Caucasus, a little bit in Romania, a little bit maybe down here in British Malaya, on the Dutch East Indies, maybe a little bit in Venezuela, but really not that much of it is going around. Pretty much nothing that the Germans can reliably source, except for maybe Romania. So Germany faces this problem of they really don't have enough oil to wage a modern war. They know they need it, and they are building in between the wars. And actually, until 1940, they are building quite a couple of synthetic oil refineries, and that is, of course, something that we can do in Hearts of Iron 4 if we are so inclined. The United Kingdom, of course, doesn't need that because they can trade quite easily, but the Germans know that the United Kingdom is very well positioned to block any trade. So that's all fantastic, and the Germans start building up these synthetic plants where they're basically turning coal into fuel. And that's all very nice for them, but they don't have that many of these plants. They only have about 17. Some of them a little bit more effective, some of them not quite as effective, but nevertheless that is what they have. And it is kind of interesting to see that this is being identified as a target by Bomber Command, and it's not a bad targeting system. It is one of the things that in... Ooh, very nice. It is one of the things that in 1944 and 1945 will lead to the complete collapse of Germany at the end of the war. But at this moment it's not quite there yet. You know what, we're going to hold the speech now so that we gain some base stability over here. That should be fairly lovely. Great. Yeah, so nevertheless, we are now looking... Ooh, we've got Utrecht there. That's lovely. Good. I like to see that. Can we push them out a little bit more over here? Yeah, you know what? Let's continue to strike against these guys here. They have fairly low organization, so let's try to do that and come up a little bit behind these guys even maybe. Yeah, we're going to win here quite quickly. Then we're going to move in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask like 4 of these guys to continue on towards Groningen, and maybe we can isolate a couple of guys here at Leeuwarden while we're doing that. Isn't that lovely? I like to see that. Good. Let's go. I don't think construction is relevant, but excavation might be. On the other hand, all of this other stuff, useful but not quite critical. Yeah, I think the industrial things are really the most important ones. Yeah, I would really like to do these. Yeah, on the other hand, naval doctrine, yeah, you know what, let's go for battlefield concentration over here. That is also important. We have some free civilian factories, which is lovely. Let's continue to build up our military capabilities then. A little bit over here, and that should be okay. Then we're going to wait for the next level there. That's good. Okay, and you know what, we can also build up a little bit of a radar installation over here in the Far East, because I feel that at some point we might be tasked with attacking Japan. Or you know what, we're going to build one down here. That's fine. Good. So in 1945, really Germany collapses to a large extent because of the lack of fuel, and that's fine. That's not too surprising, really. You know what, you guys here are all trying to withdraw to Groningen, and let's try to pin you in by making an attack here, and that should basically stop you. It's not going to be a very successful attack, But while these guys are defending over here, and I think doing pretty well at that, some of our guys will be moving over here and basically cut off the retreat of all of these guys. You only need to win here, my friend. We do not need to win over there. And of course in Groningen itself. Shanxi has capitulated, that's bad news, obviously, but there we go, Groningen has been captured. That's great. You guys are going over there. That's alright too. Let's actually grab this gentleman and this gentleman over here. And you guys are now supposed to reinforce the attack on Leeuwarden itself. And you guys should actually be fine over here. Not sure why you're showing that as a rat attack over there. Yeah. So far so fine. You are probably also now in 2 attacks over here. Which is also very lovely, I think. Great, yeah. You've done that now. Let's support the attack over here. And continue to funnel in resources over here. I think that should lead to their collapse pretty quickly here. You guys are extremely low on organization, but you guys are sort of encircled. The combat width is such that we can potentially channel in more guys over here into this attack, so that's perfectly lovely there. You just only need to actually join up and that should be great. Yeah, I like to see that. So that's 6 divisions there that we did manage to sneak away from them, and more importantly I think that also puts Friesland back into the hands of the actual Dutch unit, so it's not anymore just purely on their side, so that's nice. Yeah, let's continue to pour in more resources in this fight here, and that does lead to their collapse extremely quickly. There's a naval battle down here, lovely to see as well. Oh, sorry about the background noise. Lovely, good, I like to see that. Lots of units being sunk over here. Basically, the Italian light ships are bleeding away, so that's good to see. Yeah, and Germany losing, definitely losing in Leeuwarden over here. And there we go. And that does decrease our front line a little bit as well, and that is again very nice to see. Yeah, and all of this is now in our hands, so that also should mean that Germany is closer to collapse over here, isn't it? Or at least a little bit. Yeah, so they are now down definitively to 185 factories. That's great to see. I think it's mostly naval dockyards over here, but you know what, that's fine. Good. No further attacks there that seem to make that much sense to me, but still nice to see that they're also attacking over here and getting bloody nose there. So that's lovely. British Malay are changing, that's not great, but what can we do? Yeah. You guys are doing fine over here. Now I wonder whether we should try to trigger the naval attack here on Germany itself, but yeah, we'll probably have to see a little bit about that. Simultaneous destroyers, not the biggest threat I think, so yeah, that should be okay. Greece still holding out fine, that's lovely to see. And down here in Singapore we are also building up our mine laying capabilities and all of that. You guys, maybe you shouldn't be a strike force, maybe you should just try to get to Singapore. That would save us a little bit of fuel, and that's also fantastic. And I would very much appreciate that. Have we sent in a couple of ships over here? No, we are doing that now. So that's lovely to see. No, not sure why you're disengaging. But yeah, we are destroying their destroyers there. So that's great to see. Yeah, and there they go. 5 destroyers sunk. That's extremely lovely. I just wonder how much stuff they actually have left. Do we know anything about their navy? We do know a little bit. You had 2 battleships, 21 destroyers, a couple of heavy cruisers. Yeah, they are still going strong. I mean, the Germans, not so much. Yeah, they are a little bit weaker, but Italy definitely still around. How about our intelligence? So we're pretty close to decrypting Germany again, that's lovely to see. Should potentially put a stop here on Japan for a second so that we can do Germany a little bit faster. There we go. No, that's not quite it. 99% though. Lovely. Alright, well we are still at December then. So, even later in the war, once they have attacked the Soviet Union, about 50% of the German fuel supply come from the synthetic refineries. That's pretty much. That's quite a significant chunk, especially given that they really didn't have that much in terms of reserves. So they were pretty much using the oil as they were extracting it or as they were synthesizing it. Yeah, we do need to be a little bit more careful here with the fuel situation though. So honestly, potentially you guys here, can you stop a second here and not be a strike force? So that you guys are doing that on your own, and you guys still are, and that's fine. And we do need to send you towards repairs, and you as well. I think that should allow us to deal with that a little bit more aggressively. What's going on over here? Have we lost a lot of military equipment due to Malaya withdrawing? I think that might be it, right? Yeah, I think we do need to prioritize this over here and see what we can do about Malaya. So you guys here, I think we lost access to your military factories there. Ooh, that's not great. Can we do anything about that though? What happens if we can't build anything in your territory? We could only build a little bit of infrastructure there. You know what, let's prioritize that and see whether that is going to get us anywhere. But yeah, not great. Not great a result over there. Another battle over here, just a small one though, so that's not too exciting. Great, yeah, I like to see that. This I don't like to see. Okay, but it is historical, so Romania joining up with the Germans over here. Not the greatest result for us, to be honest, but I think it's okay. You know, you guys can potentially push into Arnhem, especially if you guys are supporting that, so that we are attacking from 4 directions over here. Yeah, and that does quite a bit of damage to them, so that's lovely to see. And again, it pushes them out a little bit from where we don't want them to be. So that's lovely. Yeah, but our fuel situation is now looking quite critical over here. I would very much love to see us being not quite as bleeding quite as much fuel. It's a tough one. Also, our air experience is extremely high over here, so I think what we need to do is go to production and have a look at our aircraft, especially at our heavy fighters over here, the Bofog Mark 1, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to dial up the reliability and range a little bit, so that you just have purely better capabilities in that regard, better agility, better range, better max speed. You know what, that's perfectly good. Right, let's decommission this one. That's going to be alright, and then what we're going to do is we're going to ask you guys here to switch. We're currently producing 6.7. Once we are switching over, that's going to be a little bit less, but I think it is worthwhile as we are producing better aircraft there. So that's lovely to see. Army experience accumulating there. That's lovely. Yeah, you guys are now fighting over there. That's okay, I suppose, but what we really should do is ask you guys here. You know what? I think one of you can stop doing that, but overall we should also be working in this field at least, and that's fine. Italy's still trying to fight in these mountains, so let's have a look here actually whether you guys, the second army, can you take a promotion? Yeah, you can. Infantry expert there, and provision expert. Slightly faster movement and all of that. It's nice, but really not that critical, so I think that's okay. Right, yeah, and here in Arnhem we are breaking them quite strongly actually, so that's good to see as well. Yeah, nice. It's not critical, but you know what, let's give the Dutch the boost that they can. One of our agents is captured. That's not great, but what can we do? Well, of course what we can do is we can try to liberate him. Rescue? Oh, that is already in progress because it's the second one to be liberated. Okay, fine. Fine, let's see whether we can get both at the same time. Right, offensive stuff done. That basically concludes all of this. We could do infrastructure destruction. Don't think we need it. Ground support is really not what we're doing. So honestly, that's fine. Conversion is going to be alright. Engineering, we've got everything over here that we do need at the moment, so that's okay too. I would like to get better strategic bombers and fighters just so that we can up the game over there and potentially use them against the Soviet Union later on, but that's going to be for later time. Now, all of this here would make some sense, but again, it's not critical for the moment, so I don't think we're going to do that. I suppose the artillery upgrade here might be a very nice and easy thing for us. Yeah, Legionary Romania joining, that's not a big surprise. Now, let's return to the question of strategic bombing against their fuel stores. So in about October, the British do formulate this as a new directive, and they're really trying to go ahead with that and trying to strike up the British fuel factories and their synthetic fuel refineries. And they immediately have a great effect. Really, France. Bad for them. So they immediately have a great effect, or so they think. They come back with these reports that they were able to fly over Germany, that they could make out individual buildings in some instances, definitively find the cities, definitively find their targets, make out individual buildings, attack them, and actually be able to do really much. And the War Cabinet in late 1940 thinks that they dropped by just about 500 tons worth of bombs being dropped on Germany, already destroyed 15% of their capabilities in fuel refining, which is of course, as we know today, absurdly efficient for what they actually achieved in World War II. But that is their thinking at the time, and at the time they really think... Excuse me? Australia? Did you just land in Croatia? Did you think this was a great holiday vacation or something? Jesus, what are they doing over there? More submarines over here, but our destroyers are now engaging, so that's good to see. This is weird. Nevertheless, the crews of Bomber Command come back, and at this point they formulate a plan, and they think... Ooh, nice. And they think that you can potentially take out, based on the evidence that they've got, take out the synthetic fuel plant by dropping just 400 bombs, 500-pound bombs. So that they think is sufficient. You need about 100 bombs over the target for that. Let's say you need 200 sorties so that you can actually produce that many. What are we ready to do over here? Weapons for the Danish resistance? No. Yeah, so they think about 200 sorties would take out one factory, one synthetic fuel refinery, and that take them out for about 4 months, which is also extremely inefficient. If you know anything about the Merseburg raids, for example, you know that no sortie in World War II did take out any synthetic fuel refinery yard for 4 months. So that's really kind of optimistic, but they think they can do it with just 200 sorties. There are 17 installations, so you need about 3,400 sorties over a 4-month period, and they think that's potentially possible. They think that, you know, given the capabilities of Bomber Command, you've got about 9 moonlit lights in any given month. They think they can potentially strike at Germany in that way, and that's fine. And they are coming back with these glaring reports, and they are thinking that Bomber Command is winning the war a little bit like they anticipated, which might be indicating also the problem in that type of thinking. So it's kind of interesting. And then something happens in November 1940. Now, the Battle for Britain has been going on for a while. The German bombers have been pushed to night attacks on London. But then in November they are choosing a different target, and that is of course Coventry, right down here next to Birmingham, quite inland from Britain, and they are devastating the city, and there's a lot of civilian casualties, and that is really the Coventry raid that everyone knows, which is I think in November 1940. In December 1940, Bomber Command does a retaliation attack. This is not supposed to go in against the synthetic refineries. The synthetic refineries are usually they are very much away from the cities, they are in the open country, which makes them a little bit more difficult to find. And of course makes them much more difficult targets because they, compared to a city, they're kind of small. Now, what Bomber Command does is they are striking against Mannheim. Mannheim is a city on the River Rhine, an industrial center, must be around here I think. an industrial an industrial center, but they are trying to strike the city itself, and they're really sending it. It's purely based. It's purely an attack on civilians, and they're just doing that just sort of as a repercussion for the attack on Coventry. And the reports that come back, it's an attack under ideal conditions. You know, it's a city, so it's very easy to find. It's a city on the River Rhine, and rivers are one of the few things that you can really very readily identify at night. It's not very deep into Germany. All things considered, you know, the fuel refinery yards are in Stettin, they are at Blackhammer, which is around Breslau here. So these things are very much away from the UK for the most part, except for some things in the Ruhr. But the attack on Mannheim should be extremely easy. This is one of the best targets that they have. They have a moonlit light. It's perfect moonlight. They've sending out the best crews. They're using all of the lessons that they learned from the Germans, so they are sending in a good number of Pathfinder aircraft first that are dropping some flares and some initial bombs to highlight where all of the other bombers should drop, what points they should target. And then they realize things aren't going great. So this is really one of the first times that all of this pre-war thinking about how accurate a bomber could be, and all of this testing that they've done, of course, mostly against, you know, very ideal circumstances during the day, it breaks down. And it really becomes apparent that you cannot do any accurate bombing at night in the way that was thought before the war. And that is really disconcerting for Bomber Command, because if you cannot hit a city-sized target that is very close and under ideal circumstances, how are you supposed to hit something that is much further away, where you have much lower chances of hitting anyone? Specifically, Mannheim is almost close to the range where not just navigation is very easy, but also some of the targeting aids, electronic targeting aids, are still effective at that range. But over Eastern Germany, that's just really not possible. So that is kind of interesting, I find, because this is one of the first moments where Bomber Command has to pause. And, you know, everyone is still incredibly enthusiastic about the whole thing. But it really becomes apparent that there might be something that's wrong with this strategy. And maybe all of these reports, all of these glaring reports... Jesus, what are you doing, Australia? Yeah, you've maneuvered yourself into a completely cut-off situation, haven't you? Yeah, okay, Australia really doing a number there. Sorry for my Australian viewers, this is just really disheartening to see. Also, Italy is now pushing into Greece for the first time here, so that's also kind of interesting. Have they pulled off anything of significance over here from this front? No, it doesn't seem like that. So, really pretty much no. So you know what we're going to do is we are going to send out our ships away from the Mediterranean, so you guys, and we're going to send you into the Eastern North Sea. And it's only the Eastern North Sea, really. So yeah, let's get rid of all of this. Let's send the home fleet over here into Rosind, I think. Yeah. Let's get you over there. That should be fine. You guys are dealing with stuff down here. You guys are doing patrol missions, that's fine. You guys can get up over here into this port, and I would like you to do naval invasion support at some point. Yeah, and you're going into that direction anyway, so that's lovely to see. And great. How are we looking over here in terms of the enemy aircraft? It's not that bad actually, they don't really have that much there, so that's nice. What do we know about the Germans then? Now, one interesting role, by the way, is the role of German informants, and they were supporting the notion of how effective the bombardments were, which is again quite interesting because, as we will see, historically the bombardments weren't really. But they are sending back these reports saying, "Oh yeah, basically basically you've won the war already. It's just a matter of time, and very very quickly you're gonna be successful over here. And that is basically the same thing that the Germans agents in Britain told them. Now with the German agents, it's much more because they were identified pretty early on, and they were fed wrong information, and this wrong information then resulted in them believing that they are almost winning the war, which of course they didn't. Now for the British agents in Germany, we don't really have evidence that stipulates that might have been the case for them, so it's not quite sure why they were fed that wrong information, but personally I think it's mostly like this effect that you have quite often, that agents can be a little bit over optimistic, and you know, they have their own agenda. They want to take over Germany, and they want the Allies to push and continue with the attack, and they might be just painting an overly optimistic picture. Maybe not even because they want to, but because they think they maybe want to understand themselves that Germany is close to uprising and bringing them back to the front. So that's interesting. Now that being said, we've got our 4 divisions over here that are now landing in Wilhelmshaven. Hopefully that attack is going to fare better than whatever the Australians did down here. Of course they have been purged for that. Yeah, nevertheless, Greece is going to fall. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to try to support them. We could try to support them over here on the Corinth Peninsula, but yeah, I think it might make more sense to try and finish off Germany here. They are struggling so badly, so I think that's great. Last thing I want to look at here is the reserves that they've got in terms of the army, in terms of their stockpile. If our information is correct, they don't have any infantry equipment. They only have a couple of light tanks and armored cars. No artillery pieces, no infantry equipment. Good to see. Hope to see you guys around next time when we are landing in Wilhelmshaven, and gonna see how that is gonna work out for us. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you around then. Bye bye.